welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, or as Disney redubbed it, Legends. So first off the bat, if you enjoy Disney, that's fantastic. I don't know how you found this or started watching this, but I personally don't. But this is all fiction, so it's all a matter of opinion. Now, of course, there are things that can be objectively bad in things, like I think there are in the Disney sequels and Rebels and the last season of the Clone Wars minus the last 4 episodes. But if you enjoy it, that's great. However, I would recommend that even if you do like Disney, that you would take a look at these stories and maybe just see it as an alternative universe. If you've ever heard of Lore Runner, amazing YouTuber, by the way, highly recommend that you check him out. He does these things called ruminations. But whenever he's talked about Star Wars, if he's reviewed Rebels or anything like that, he has the EU, which is the expanded universe, and then AU, an alternative universe, being the Disney one. I don't like Disney at all, though, for the most part, so I just tend to not even consider an alternative and just stick with what I consider the true one. But anyway, complications happened, so I'm not going to be reading the Bounty Hunter Wars, the trilogy, which is okay. There's a lot of backstory. It's mostly a flashback books, because the main plot does take place after episode 6. Well, not the main plot, but it's like that's the only thing that's happening that takes place after Return. Everything else is taking place before. But I think it worked out okay, because I read Michael Stackpole's, Michael Stackpole, I think. I read his very first novel, X-Wing Rogue Squadron. And with how it talks about past events like Truce at Bakor and whatnot, I think it really works to read this after Truce at Bakor. Now, of course, you would want to read the Bounty Hunter Wars at some point, but I don't know. It just I don't know. It just felt, it flowed naturally to go from here to there. I feel like the Bounty Hunter Wars is like a good, but it's like a kind of jarring. But anyway, I took some notes, because I don't know, I just figured I'd take some notes. One of my first notes was, this is 2 years since the battle at Endor with the second Death Star, which, when we read Truce at Bakor, that was literally like a day afterwards. So it's been a while since the last time. Another great thing about, I just want to say, with this whole novel, this was fantastic. Like, I enjoyed Truce at Bakor, but I was thoroughly invested in this novel. I think I'd put it, it's not as good as Darth Plagueis or Darth Bane trilogy. Those books have still not been topped yet through my exploration through the EU. Perhaps that will change when I read the Timothy Zahn Thrawn trilogy. Don't know. But so far, nothing is compared to those, to the trilogy and the Darth Plagueis novel that I've read. However, that's like S tier. Those for me so far. A tier for me so far has been A.C. Crispin's Han Solo trilogy, and that's probably where I'd put this first book of Rogue Squadron. I think it's A tier. It was really, really, really enjoyable. One of my favorites of what I've had the pleasure of reading so far. The Rogue Squadron, like the squadron of the X-Wing ships that have done stuff, they've actually been, they make a point in the book that they've been a part of all the major battles. So episode 4 with the Death Star, the squadron was a part of it. They lost a lot of people, but Wedge Antilles survived, and we've seen him. They were part of the Battle at Hoth. They were a part of the fight of the Battle of Endor, of course. And then again, during the Truce of Bakor book, they did stuff there too. So they've been a part of like every major battle that we've seen during the original trilogy and stuff in the expanded universe so far. So we now have, at this point, since it's been 2 years since Truce of Bakor and Episode 6, we officially now have the New Republic. There's still a rebellion, because a rebellion against the Empire that still exists, because, again, Luke defeated the Hitler, basically, but there's still an entire army left. Of course, you have warlords now, who are trying to take over, because there's no more Palpatine, so all vying for power to take, you know, sort of like that spot. But the whole... Sorry. But, so now, there is a New Republic, but they don't really have, like, they've been winning battle after battle, but it's still, like, a huge empire, so they're not close to being, like, done with this yet. But, and, alright, and I wrote after, that a month after, the 6th movie, after the Battle of Endor, the New Republic was established. So, we officially have the New Republic now. And the whole, like, big thing with this book, we don't even get to Coruscant in this book, but they want to take Coruscant. They want to take, it's actually called Imperial Center right now, because that's what Palpatine changed it to. That's what a lot of people consider it to be. But they want to retake that. They want to make that theirs again. Make it their capital, like, planet. But they don't get to that in this book. They try to get to places that are close by. There's a bunch of stuff that happens in between that. And I guess I haven't read Timothy Zahn's novel, but apparently by that point in time, they already do have Coruscant back. So I don't know if that came, I think that came out first. So this is like kind of like fleshing that out and how they got it back and whatnot. So our main character in this is Corin. I don't know how to say his name. Cornhorn. That's all I'm going to say. Cornhorn. I don't know. But, he is a big name. I've heard it because, you know, exploring the EU, just like learning about it. He's going to become a big character, not just in this series, but he's going to be part of other stuff. Like, I know he'll eventually join Luke and become a Jedi in his academy. So that'll be interesting. But here, he used to work, he's a Corellian, you know, like Han Solo, and he used to work for like, I don't know if it's specifically like an Imperial security sect, or if it was like, it's just a Corellian thing, but it was overseen by the Imperials, but he was either on the Imperial side or he was neutral. And now he's working for the Rebellion. And his friend, I forget the name, but his friend is in the Empire and is a big part of this book and is supposed to, you know, he's one of the opposing forces. Yazine, I don't know how to say her first name. Yasmin, Isgard, I don't know. There's some hard names. But this lady, I believe it seems like she's going to be the big bad of all these books. She is referred to as Madam Director. She's actually a really good villain. We haven't really had, like, amazing villains, I feel like, in the expanded universe so far. But mostly because it's been stuff that's been in between. You have your big villains. You have Darth Vader, you have Palpatine. The most we got with, like, a new villain, really, was Prince Caesar for one book. And I know he's also in the Bounty Hunter Wars and stuff because it's flashbacks to when he's, you know, still alive. But, yeah, there hasn't been really that many strong villains, and I imagined I wouldn't get one until we got to Thrawn as the next like big threat. But she is actually pretty intimidating. And also, if you watched my previous video on the Mara Jade comics, she was actually part of that. She's like got white and dark hair, like it's half white. It's got like a white streak, but it's also black or something. And she has like a red eye. But she's really logical and to the point. And I don't know, I really enjoy her. And I just have to say, not to get too political, but here is a woman who's clearly powerful, clearly in control, clearly, she's, as of right now, it seems like she's like the top to the top right now because there's no more Emperor Palpatine. So she's kind of like the highest ranking right now. I don't know if that's true, but it seems like that. But she demands presence. Like whenever she's a part of the book, it just really seems like she's on top of things. And you can do that and not make it feel like it's shoved down my throat. She seems like an intimidating threat. Not because she's a woman, not because she's superior to men, but just because she is a person, has gotten to this position, and is clearly smart enough to do what needs to be done. And is going to be a threat for our main characters moving forward. But if this was Disney, they would make it really apparent and kind of shove it down your throat. So, or make her a Mary Sue. So I appreciate that. This book, you know, you can have, and even Mara Jade herself, you can have strong female characters and have it feel natural and flow. And not make it shoved down people's throats. And you don't even have to make men be less. Which, the whole thing about equality is that it's equality. But every time I see these things where they try to push up women, they bring down men. And that's not how you do equality. It's not. So, I just want to say I really appreciate it. It's nice to have strong female characters. It's great. Just as long as you don't make men suck in the process. So, yeah, I already mentioned that their whole main plan is to retake Coruscant. But they don't get that by this book. They go to a moon system nearby. It's not like, I mean, it's space, but like relatively nearby to Coruscant. And that's like what they're trying to do for this book. I really like Cornhorn, however you say him. I think he's a good character. Mostly everyone in this book was, I don't remember everyone's names because I have trouble with names, but I loved Wedge. I love getting more of Wedge because he was just a face that we saw in the movies, but to have him fleshed out in here, it's cool, and I'm sure we'll get more of him fleshed out as we go on. And he's not the main character or anything, but it's nice to have him here, and it's just nice. It's a story that doesn't revolve around Jedi or anything like that. It's just normal people, in war, and it's really cool. To be honest, like the fighting scenes are fine, but those were probably the most boring part of it. Like the most interesting parts were the characters, the interactions, the talking. That was, I think Michael Stackpole, fantastic writer, just from this alone. I think he does dialogue really well too. Not as good as James Luceno. It seems like no one so far has beaten James Luceno in terms of dialogue, but that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, I only have really one more thing to say. There was a quote, it's paraphrasing, but Wedge talks to them before like the final battle of the book, and he tells them, like, the Battle of Endor, it was for the survival of the rebellion. Like, that fight was just so the rebellion would survive. But the battle in this book is for the rebellion's future. And I don't know, it's really stuck out to me, that quote, so I wrote it down. That's about it. I hear this book series gets even more better than it already is, so I can't wait to see what else it has in stores. Next is Wedge's Gambit, something like that. So that'll be interesting. We'll get to that when we get to that. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. I love this universe. It's so expansive and so interconnected. It's so great. You have a character that got barely any screen time in the movies, and you can flesh him out and make him a full character. You can create him an entirely new character and still have him feel like it fits, and still have it feel like it's Star Wars. You know? And there's still so much to see, so much to explore. Just this series alone. You know, we got the Thrawn trilogy, we got the Jedi Academy trilogy. Got so much more to explore. And, you know, not to mention New Jedi Order and Legacy of the Force, Fate of the Jedi. I'm just looking forward to going through all of it and exploring this amazing, expansive universe. And, yeah, I've enjoyed talking about X-Wing Rogue Squadron with you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.